Hey, my name is Roy Canterbury. I'm going to be your host today on Archer Talk 101. And we have a special guest with us today, Dustin Adam from Adam's Precision Archery. And we're going to have a little conversation here. We're going to see what he's doing in the archer world and get some pointers out to our new archery. So, welcome to the show, Adam. All right,
Dustin.
Dustin. Dustin.
It's
I
all
keep
good,
seeing
man.
your shirt says Adams, and I keep focusing on the Adams on there. So, Dustin.
Hey, thanks for having me, man. I'm glad to be here.
So, how did you get started in archery?
Man, so I'm a first generation archer. It's not something that was kind of like, passed along from my dad or granddad or anything like that. Just friends that I grew up with and more recently, actually kind of started getting into it and that was 4 or 5 years ago and so now here I am and I try to study it and learn about it now and it's just become my second love behind my family. So I enjoy it, man. I enjoy it. It's a great time and I just kind of decided to get into it. All my friends were into it and I wasn't, and now I am. So
So,
sometimes
so
I think
that
it's like that.
so that's why you got started. All your friends were archers, and then you didn't want to be left out, so you kind of joined them and
Bow hunters,
found it.
man. Yeah, they were all bow hunters, and I didn't do a whole lot of hunting because again, it wasn't a my family wasn't full of big hunters and all of that. So and then it just kind of one thing led to another, and now it's pretty much the only thing that I do other than work.
Work and hunt. What else is there, right? Especially
Yeah,
with your bow.
that's it.
So, what
Yeah.
kind of equipment are you using? Using compound and
Yeah, so I shoot a Matthews bow. I shoot a V3X 29, and then I have a VXR, a 31.5 VXR. It's a backup. I've shot some other bows, and Matthews isn't the only manufacturer out there, but it's just suited my archery style the best, and it's just a proven product. So I enjoy it, and yeah, they're great bows, man. I suggest them to everybody.
yeah, I one of my first bows was the Matthews Q2,
Old
and
school.
yeah, old school. And then I bought an archery store, and it was a bait and tackle and archery, and there was a PSE dealer, so I went down to spend a week down in Tucson, Arizona, at the PSE dealer school, and part of the cost of it was getting a bow.
Sure.
And I go to the guy and says, "Okay, I'm shooting a Matthews Q2. Which one of these should I get that's at least good or better than that?" And yeah, it's like, okay, this is what I'm shooting now. And I
Yeah.
said, when I set it up, you know, not knowing as much to do now about setting them up, I shot it through paper, got a perfect hole for a shot. I set it up, and that's the way it shot. And of course, now I've learned that paper tuning is basically a waste of your time if you know how to set them up. You don't need them. It'll
Sure.
it'll tell it'll tell you if your spine is off. You get different distances, but if it's set up right, and I use levels and lasers to set my rest up, so you can't get any more better than that.
Sure.
Um, so it's perfectly center shot, and so I got the PSE Carrera. That was in 2001. I still have it. That's my hunting bow.
That's well before my archery time there, man.
Well, I started in archery back in the 60s with a fiberglass recurve bow,
Oh
shooting
yeah.
with arrows, because there wasn't much else. There was no compounds. They didn't come around until about the 70s.
Yeah, and I'm sure they were man, I'm sure they were way different than they are now. I mean,
Oh yeah, way different.
technology, man, the technology.
Yeah, and way slower. And a lot of guys would shoot 90 pounds to get any kind of decent speed out of them, and now there's no reason to go past 70. Um, for most people, one thing, it's awful hard to shoot when you
Yeah,
start getting into the heavier
yeah,
weights. Um,
definitely the let off gets heavy and you get shaky and I think that leads to target panic and all those different things. So
yeah,
I think a lot of guys, man, a lot of guys get really I think hyper focused on things like draw weight, and I need to pull as much weight as possible. And what I think archers need to realize is that there's not a North American animal that you can't kill with 60 pounds of draw weight or 65 pounds of draw weight. But these guys with the 85 and 88 and 90 pounds, I think I don't know that you're doing more, more good than harm when it comes to your body. You know what I mean?
Now,
So
some people are strong enough they can pull those, and it's not a big problem.
sure,
You'll have little flatter shooting arrows. Your pins be closer. You don't judge your yardage quite so bad, so good. But um, shoot what you're comfortable with. Uh,
100%. Yeah. I see too many guys, and I have friends that do it too, man. They just they force the issue as far as draw weight or try to step that weight up too quickly when they're getting into the hobby. And it's just, you can hurt yourself, man. I hurt myself whenever I was getting in. So I'm speaking from some experience here.
Yeah, I know when I started it, I got my one compound bow was at 52 pounds, and I shooting aluminum arrows in because carbon didn't exist yet for arrows,
Right.
and it was a full length arrow, so it was like 34-inch arrow, and I'm shooting 30-inch draw length. Um, I'm 29 and a half is what I'm actually supposed to be, but it was a little bit long because I didn't know any better.
Sure.
And at 52 pounds, I was about 20 feet up in the air, and the deer is 40 yards away. And I shot that deer, and the arrow almost went clean through the deer at 52 pounds.
Yeah. That's a perfect example, right? And again,
Yeah.
this is before carbon, man. I mean, these
Oh,
new
yeah.
technologies and stuff. I mean, you make it much easier to get that type of pass through shot and everything. So, yeah, I mean, just think that's a testament to the fact that again, I mean, you don't need to even shoot 70 pounds. I mean, I personally shoot 70 because if you can comfortably do it, then why not? But wants and needs, right? I mean, it's
Right.
definitely a line between the two. So, yeah,
Yeah, I found that when I shoot 70, my form's better than when I shoot at 60 because when you draw back in that form at the back tension and it's not as hard, I don't have to pull so tight into it. And I shoot better at 70. And um, I go to shoot a 300 round, I'm shooting at 70 pounds with my hunting bow.
yeah,
Uh,
I totally agree. But for me, it's just that I think that that's what I'm so used to now, weight wise. I've got some friends that shoot 65 and 63, and if I were to, when I'll do some tuning and stuff like that for those guys, and when I draw that 63 pounds back, I'm like whamming into the back wall because I mean, it's just it's such a huge difference. Even that 5 pounds in draw weight, it's just
oh,
a
yeah.
exponential difference, and you're smashing into the back wall and shaking all over because you've gotten used to that let off or hold weight, as far as your 70-pound draw goes.
I know when I was going through that, I was increasing a little bit at a time, a little bit at a time. And I think I got to like 59 or 60 pounds. And I just couldn't, for the longest time, I couldn't pull more than that. And then finally get to 62. And then all of a sudden, then it just jumped to two. I go right to set. I can move right up to 70 with no problem. Part of it is learning proper technique. Uh,
Correct. Yeah.
you,
Yeah.
proper technique will keep you from having shoulder problems. Proper technique will allow you to draw more weight, hold more weight. I did an interview with a physical therapy doctor on shoulder problems because a lot of archers will have shoulder problems because when they draw, they'll push that shoulder up.
That's right.
And, and that causes shoulder problems because now your tendons are holding, so you want to drop down. So there's just a lot of things that over the years I've seen and
Yeah.
watching videos. I can watch a video and I can pick out all kinds of stuff.
Yeah,
And,
I mean, I've had personally. I mean, I've had some shoulder issues from the time when I first picked up a bow and started shooting and practicing and trying to learn about technique and all that. But at the very beginning, you're not worried about any of that. You just want to pull the bow back and look for the sight and hit that down there. You know what I mean? And
yeah, just point.
yeah, point and shoot, right? But I ended up having some shoulder issues from it, and luckily was able to sort that out without having any type of surgical intervention, and then really started focusing on the form, which I think people who are just getting into archery really need to pay attention to learning how to draw a bow with the proper technique and the proper form, and I think that just pays big dividends to them down the line, not just from a standpoint of the condition of your shoulders, but
Yeah,
just consistency and shot performance and all that stuff too. So it's important.
yeah. I was on one of the forums and the guy showed his forearm, and there's a big old bruise right here. And my comment was drawing's too long. That's all I said.
Yeah, And knock on wood, I've never had the thing in the forearm, man. It looks it looks terrible though. So I'll be yeah, I'll be looking to stay away from that.
Been there, done that.
Yeah, not
Before I learned. Um, my first compound that I bought, the first one I shot was my brother's bear whitetail,
okay.
and those were kind of unique. But my first bow I bought, I go into the archery store, and this is way before I knew anything, probably um, early 90s or late 80s. I forget when it was now, but and grabbed a bow. I drew it back and was like, okay, I didn't know what I was doing. It's like, she said, how does that feel? I was like, okay. I thought it was 32-inch drawing. So in
Feels
the
awesome.
90s, so in about 95, I went and actually took some archery instructions and then become an archery instructor. And I thought I was 32-inch draw length. He says, no, you're 29 and a half. So now to continue on in the
Yeah,
course, this was like a Friday, and then it was a Friday night, and then a Saturday and a Sunday or something. I forget, it was 2 or 3 days. So I had to do Saturday throughout the day. I had to get my bow down at 29 and a half draw length. Well,
that's a huge
or
difference. Huge difference.
change the string is the only way you can really do it then, because you didn't have modules to change. It
Right.
was, a lot of them was you change the cam,
Yeah,
and you're not doing that. And so I got it down to 29 and a half, and shooting, learn how to do it. And you're going through this. Back then it was, I don't know, like $300 or something for the course, but this is back in the 90s.
sure.
So now it'd be way more than that. But I'm shooting, it says, I don't like it, don't feel right doing it. And it's like, oh, this feels good. I shoot 29 now.
You're all the way down to 29. Are you settled
Yeah.
there?
Yeah, I'm settled there. Now,
I shoot 28.
the reason I the reason I went to 29 to 20 and a half, that puts just a little more bend in the arm. So now in the wintertime, when I have my big heavy parker on, I don't hit my sleeve.
Yeah, I mean it makes sense. The clothing definitely can affect that, and I'm always a believer of practice how you're gonna be as far as when you're in the actual the scenario, the hunting scenario, or if you're a 3D shooter or whatever. I mean, wear what you're gonna wear and make sure that everything is on point, man. These guys with these giant jackets that have never shot their bow with them, and then get up there to do it, and they got the string tearing their sleeve off and and just causing lots of trouble up in the stand, man.
Oh yeah, you can miss by several feet if you hit your arm.
Yeah,
Uh, I
yeah,
did that when I was shooting my bow. It was too long. I actually hit the arm, and instead of hitting the deer where I was supposed to, I actually hit it in the artery, or I think that was in the back leg or something. Caught an artery, so I was able to watch it. It didn't go very far, but it hit my arm and now threw the whole shot off, and I could have, just
could have missed.
wounded an animal, or better yet, miss. But unfortunately, I did get one. Did get it, but it's one of those things that you just got to know what you're doing.
Yeah, could have been worse. Could have missed him or injured it and sent it off running and suffering. You know what I mean? Which is ultimately that's not the goal for us as bow hunters. You want it to be a quick, humane kill. So
Yeah. Well, and in last week's podcast, I talked about what to do to get ready for your hunting, and there's a lot of things to think about, and a lot of people don't do it. And one of the things is you've got to shoot your broadheads.
you have to. You have to
Yeah,
shoot the heads. So I mean, people would be amazed if you take an arrow and you get your bow perfectly dialed in with a field point, right? And then you go through the entire off season and you practice and get it dialed in, and it's you can shoot a bottle cap from 50 yards or whatever you're able to do. And then you find yourself in a hunting setting where with a broadhead, whether it be a mechanical or a fixed blade or something like that, and you miss a 25-yard shot or a 30-yard shot, and that's just because, I mean, arrows are going to fly different with a broadhead. I mean, that's just I think that's factual information, and our job is just to try to find the broadhead combination with the arrow that's going to perform at the same level as a field point, or as close as possible, and maintaining your bow's efficiency. And so you have to shoot the broadheads. I shoot them all year long. just because I don't want to have that situation where, the buck I've been watching all year comes out and I haven't shot my broadheads and now I'm about to miss him. So wouldn't
Yeah,
be wouldn't be very pleasant.
I shoot muzzies. That's the only broadhead I've ever shot. When I first got my first bow, I asked her, what broadhead, and she said muzzies, and haven't gone
Tried and
wrong.
true.
I've shot through bones. Actually, one day when I had my store, I was shooting a little bit tired, and I have a broadhead target I shoot in because I don't shoot in a regular backstop because it just tears them up. But I
Oh
had a
yeah.
broadhead target, and I missed. It was a concrete block wall. That
Yeah.
broadhead, it cracked the insert and broke the shaft back a little bit, but the broadhead was actually stuck in the concrete block.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's
I
crazy.
still I still use it. It didn't hurt the broadhead at all.
Same broadhead.
Same broadhead. So I still use it. It didn't even mess up the tip. And
Well,
I go
listen,
up there and it's like, just pull the broadhead out of the block.
if I had that kind of experience, I would be shooting the same broadheads too. I would never switch. I would never switch. So, I shoot an iron will, a single bevel, 125 grain, just because, man, I've had great success with their products, and it's like you said, I watched this guy named John Lusk. He does broadhead testing, and he puts them all through the torture test. Of course, the muzzies are, like you said, I mean, they're tried and true. They're like, I think, really like the beginning, right?
Right.
Broadhead technologies go, but this guy shoots concrete blocks and puts all of these products through torture testing and all that, and then the iron wills have stayed pretty tough, man. So I'm a big fan of a single bevel or a fixed blade head, but I think it's preference. I think it comes down to preference.
Yeah, getting them sharp is another problem. You have to work on them because the ones with the replaceable blades, it's a little bit harder to get that really super, super sharp. Even a brand new broadhead, you need to hone it up a little bit to get
For
that
sure.
super right, blade on there. The one of them I looked at was, I think, the Montec G5, which you can actually use on a flat stone to sharpen them and hone them
Right.
because it's set up
Pretty
that way.
popular. Pretty popular broadhead too, because I think that like that broadhead, and what's the other? I'm trying to think of the QAD, the Exodus. Uh,
Right.
they're kind of they're kind of similar, and they're in a good price segment. And I think for that price segment, those are, you're talking about some of the best broadheads on the market, man. I mean, they're tough as nails. They're consistent. They're reliable, and like you said, they're reusable as far as being able to resharpen and all of that. Sharpening broadheads is it's tough work, man.
Yeah.
It can really be tough work, and so I'm glad to see companies like that making them a little bit easier to do.
Yeah. And it can be hard on your fingers too when you get them in the wrong spot.
Yeah, a little bit.
So tell me about your business here, the Adam Precision Archery. What made you start that?
Man, so I think that the whole thing kind of started when I started to take I think that every archer has a cycle, right? So you get into it, you buy a bow, you go to your local bow shop, you buy a set of arrows, and you start shooting the bow, and then I think that for some people there's a natural progression where you start to get more and more into the tuning side of it, and you can almost become obsessive about that type of stuff. I see you shaking your head, so
Yeah.
you've definitely been down
Yeah.
the road. And so I think that's really where it started. I started to learn more and more about just how significant simple things with your arrows are, whether or not it spins true with a broadhead on it, or front of center, and these types of topics, right? I started to get more and more into that, and I started building myself custom arrows, and then my friends liked them, and I started building them for them, and then that kind of just snowballed and grew into a thing where I was, all of a sudden I'm building these arrows and I'm sending them to people in Texas and Massachusetts and Oregon. And so me and my wife just kind of decided, like, hey, listen, let's make this thing legit. Let's open a business and see if we can do something with it. You know what I mean? And help people and sell a high quality product and provide a high level of service to the customer. which I think is important. It's important that you provide a service if you're charging a premium, and which we are. So we do a consultation with the customers. We talk with them about their, of course, the bow specifications and the game that they're hunting, and their desired arrow weight, or what they're looking for in particular, and what issues they're having with their current products that they're using. And then we come up with a build plan for them, and then I build them and send them to them, and everybody loves them. so so hopefully that continues, man.
Yeah, that's always a thing that you got to work on your arrows. And I remember one time when I was still shooting aluminum arrows, I took it, and because I didn't have my store, I'd buy like 100 grain tips in a bag of 100. So
Yeah.
I would put on my scale and weigh them all out. So I got a dozen that were exact same weight, and then I weighed the shaft. I'd fletch them, weigh the shaft, and then I the knock on there, and then I'd take and lay on the scale the insert, and then I figured out what each one weighed. So now I went through and I would file the insert a little bit before I glued it in, and then so now all my dozen arrows were within like a tenth of a grain in total weight.
That's super tight tolerance.
But it's like okay, I think arrows were like 30, 40 bucks a dozen. I'd have probably charged $60 just for the labor to do it.
Yeah,
you know, I
it's
did it once, never did it again. But
it's
just
definitely time consuming. It's definitely
yeah,
time consuming. But I think I think that some of the time consumption is offset when you start to get a workflow going. You know what I mean? I've got we have a full service shop, and we have it set up where you start on one end of a long table, and by the time you're done, you're on the other end because you just move down the line. It's almost become robotic, honestly.
yeah.
It's yeah, becomes like an assembly line, which is great because I've got we're inundated with orders over here. So
Oh
it's
yeah,
yeah, it's awesome. So need it to be efficient. It could get out of control quickly. You could lose control of your organization for sure.
yeah, yeah. And I know, come about this time of year when we're starting getting into archery season here in Nebraska starts in September. So we have probably about 5 weeks before it starts, and it seems like that 2 to 3 weeks before, all my fletching jigs were completely full all day
Yeah,
long, all
all
day
the
long, fletching arrows.
I got them.
And
They're in there now, right now with arrows, with arrows in them.
yeah, I had a Joe Jan that would do straight fletching, and then I had like a dozen and a half single jigs. Most of mine, I think I have like 8 Bitzenbergers with the straight
Yeah,
clamp, the right helical, as well as the receiver to do cock feather out as well as down or up.
yeah,
What do you do? So I had, depending on if I'm doing like traditional arrows, then I need the cock feather out because you glue on the knot, so it has to be the right
correct.
way. But for other ones, like the rest we're using, either the shoot through, you want it down, not out, because then you're hitting, or drop aways, you want it up so it doesn't hit.
Yeah,
Uh, now I've got probably about a little over a dozen jigs now. The disadvantage of that is every arrow is fletched slightly different.
right. So when I'm building a dozen, I use two bits and burgers, and that's it. Because I mean, nowadays with the glue systems that they have with these primer pins and the max bond, I mean, you can't. So I had to learn, right? If I put 10 jigs out there, right, there's no need for that because I can't go any faster than I could between two jigs because the glue dries so quickly. Like, I mean,
Right.
once I get this one over here, get a good purchase on the shaft over here, it's time to go over here and refletch this next arrow. So it's back and forth, and I can run through a dozen of them in about I don't know, about 35 minutes now. So
Yeah.
it's not
Well,
it's manageable.
and I use the Fletch Tight.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, nice thing about the platinum is it works on wood, aluminum, and carbon. And I started using that because if you're doing wood arrows, your CA doesn't work too well on wood arrows. Um, you can do it, and in feathers, it doesn't work as well in feathers. But doing veins, it's really good because it dries almost instantly.
Yeah,
You know,
like seconds,
yeah,
seconds.
one
Get your,
jig it all you
get your
need
fingers
because
out of there.
yeah, the key with that is though is don't put too much on because then it squashes out and turns all white. Just a very thin bead is all you need
Thin
of the
bead.
CA glue.
Yeah, the purchase on the shaft is the most important thing. Just make sure you have good contact from bottom to top, and the rest will take care of itself. These glues are incredible, man.
Yeah, and the one thing I do on all my feathers is I'll take a drop of the glue and put it on the front and back of the feather because
Yeah,
as you go on, you get that big ridge and you can catch that and start ripping it off. They put
yeah,
that in there. Now you have a little bead at the front and back and it holds those, and that works really well
for sure.
for
We tip ours
feathers.
when we do them like that. Just like you said, to prevent, once it starts peeling up a little bit, I mean, eventually it's going to come off of there and it's going to affect your performance. So just put that little bead up there to keep the front of it down all the time, and you should be good to go long term.
Yeah. No, there's just a lot to do in customizing them, and then you can put wraps on them. One of the guys in the Archer Talk 101 group, he custom makes them. I think he's in Portugal, or I forget exactly which country he's in, but he posted some pictures, just some really cool looking feathers. Uh, he just puts in a lot of work on them,
Yeah,
and and you can do all kinds of stuff. I use a fluorescent wrap on my hunting ones, and you take a little flashlight and you can see them way off at a distance
yeah,
because it glows
reflective. Yeah,
just like the reflector tape on the streets.
sure.
The paint does the same thing.
Yeah, I mean the reflective wraps are crazy, man. It kind of yes and no eliminates the need for a lighted knock because for me personally, the biggest benefit to lighted knocks on an arrow to me is not so much being able to see what I've hit, but being able to find that arrow after the fact, when it's dark. And so these reflective wraps are crazy, man. Just hit them with a flashlight, and there you are, and you've saved 12 or 14 grains of weight on the back of the arrow.
Yeah. Well, and there was one time I shot and I'm going through with a flashlight and oh, there it is. It was underneath a tree, like an evergreen tree. It was like I'd have never found it otherwise.
Never. Yeah, it would have been gone.
It'd have been gone. And when you look at broadheads, they could be easily $10 or $15 a piece for them.
Oh, yeah, definitely, easily,
And
easily.
and then when you take the arrows, I shoot the competition grade arrows from hunting arrows.
Sure.
Uh, because I like to have those nice tight groups even when I'm hunting. It's probably more important in hunting because if you're shooting target, what's the worst thing that happens? Well, you lose a point. You might lose a tournament, or you're doing 3D and you lose an arrow. But if you're hunting and you wound an animal now, then you could spend hours looking for deer
Yeah,
or whatever the
definitely.
animal is, and it may live for weeks and then
Yeah,
finally die from gangrene or whatever it is in there.
yeah. You
And
definitely, you definitely want to, you definitely want to set yourself up to make the right shot when that time comes, man. I mean, the last thing, I've had experiences before, where unfortunate experiences where I've made a bad shot or made a poor shot choice and then not recovered that animal for a significant period of time or maybe even never. And it's a bad feeling, man, because we always want to make a clean, ethical, quick kill, and I think that having your setup ready to go and being able to depend on that is super important.
well, and that's what I do with my broadheads. I'll shoot my broadheads and get them set up so I can hit the X ring with my broadheads.
Yeah, I mean, so that when that time comes and you're in a deer stand or in a blind or whatever, uh, any error that happens is going to be human error. It's not going to be because you the equipment.
Yeah,
Maybe,
and I know,
maybe buck fever got involved.
yeah, I've done that as I drew up
Yeah,
on a deer and shot, completely missed it.
yeah,
It's like,
everybody has.
wait a minute, what's going on? So I had a field tip because I carry a field tip with me, you know, during hunting season, no deer around and a squirrel comes by and have my
As well.
tag. Yeah, I still got some.
Yeah,
So I took this one, I picked out a leaf on the ground and hit it. How did I hit a leaf on the ground and miss a big deer? I forgot to aim.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, listen, any bow hunter that tells you he's never gotten buck fever, he's not telling you the truth. I mean, the elbows shaking and the knees shaking, and I mean, yeah, I mean, I've had some experiences where, man, listen, I it felt like I should have brought oxygen with me, like pass out up here. But
Yeah,
that's why we do it, though, right? I mean, that feeling is why we do it.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah, I love it, man.
yeah. You got to know your equipment and how it shoots. I know
Definitely.
in my hunting mode, when I shoot my target arrows, it does not hit where my broadheads hit. They're not in the same spot.
Sure. How far
So,
off are they?
20 yards, they're probably off probably about an inch
Okay. Well,
or,
that's, I
or, or an
mean,
inch or an inch and a half, something like that.
yeah.
It's instead of in the X ring, it's still in the five ring, but it's not where it needs to be. So
Yeah.
when I shoot my broadheads, I'm there, but I shoot field tips, I shoot like low left, but the
Okay.
broadheads, they're nailing them, right in there. And that bow is set up to shoot broadheads. So if I
Perfect.
shoot practice with it, not shooting broadheads, it's not going to hit where I'm aiming, and I
Right.
know it's not. So I don't worry about it because as long as it's grouping in the same spot on every target, it doesn't matter.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah. It does not matter.
And then my newer bow, I have a 2003 PSE Scorpion,
Okay.
and that was one of those. They came out with it, and then so I got it early because as a dealer, I was able to get an early version of it. Then they released it for 2004, and it was a single cam instead of a two cam,
Yeah.
and then they dropped it.
How,
So so they come out 1 year. So I have a unique one. I
yeah.
looked up on the specs, and it says, okay, the strings, 90 some inches long. It's like, no, I have a string, a control cable, and a bus cable. So I got a hold of PSE, and I says, here's the serial number on my bow, and they sent me back the exact specs. So, and I'm using that bow as my uh, training because I have a
Sure.
whole series going on in the group. So that's in the Arch Talk 101 Facebook group. I have a whole series of lessons. I started off with making the strings. So I show how I make the strings, and then installing the string, and then making the cable, and then the bus cable, and installing those. And I'll be going on the next one as I'll be setting up the rest, and then how adjust that, and then going
That's
on just
awesome,
the whole
man.
series, taking it from start to finish, and that's all free to the group.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's awesome, man. And the group has people, I mean, they're there to learn, right? And so I think it's really awesome that you put that much focus into covering these individual topics with people who need this information and want this information, and it's a pretty awesome thing that you guys are doing over there, man.
Yeah, and that's why I want the group, no links. I don't even post links in it, because I don't want anybody to feel like, okay, they're being sold to, they
Right.
have all the other stuff. It's only information, and you can ask any question you want. The only stupid question to ask is one you haven't asked,
Correct.
because it's only stupid to you. If you don't know it, then ask it. And I've been working with beginners for, well, since 95 and teaching many of them how to do that. And I've got guys that are grouping. I've done this multiple times, 6 7 inch groups at 20 yards down to arrows touching at 20 yards. One place I worked, I think I was working over at Bass Pro for a while in their archery shop, and then I worked at Cabela's in their archery. And this one guy come in, and 45 minutes later, he's now shooting groups that are touching or just about touching. Start off an 8 inch group. Start with he's shooting way too long a draw length. It's like fix that,
Yeah.
and it got his form fixed, and way to go. And I had one guy I taught 2 weeks after I taught him his first bow. He got a Robin Hood.
Oh, nice. Nice.
Yeah, he says, "Oh, look, I did. I wrecked $20. No, I got a trophy."
Right. Yeah, 100%. What do you think the most common form flaw is in beginners?
Well, like I like to tell people, I'm going to give you first lesson for free. Quit pulling the trigger.
Right. Okay.
Everything else, that is the biggest problem because when you think about it, moving the index finger is a fine motor skill. Moving too fine, I of course talking I can't do it. Move your index fingers differently, or pat your head, rub your tummy. And I guess, well, I can do that. Switch hands. Yeah, don't work too well. Aiming is a fine motor skill. So is pulling the trigger fine motor skill. Humans cannot do both at the same time. You got to pick one or the other. So while you're aiming, you can't pull the trigger. While you're pulling the trigger, you can't aim. So what are you going to hit? Because you're not aiming anymore.
Right, right. You're focused just on trying to get a good trigger squeeze. Head.
I have to tell them, okay, go back in your drawing, have that finger out. Now try and move your finger without thinking about it. And they can't do it. You have to think about the finger. Once you think about the finger, you stop aiming. You're not going to hit your
Yeah,
target.
interesting.
Now, I've seen some very good shots that are out there like that, and they just kind of just cram on the trigger. But, you want to go to the next level? Quit
Consistency,
pulling the
right?
trigger. Right.
Yeah, it comes to consistency. Well, that's good information to have, man. I see, when I see guys post videos or pictures and stuff like that on Facebook, and then I look at the comments from the from all of the experts on Facebook,
So-called experts.
yeah, of course. Everybody's first thing is always to attack the grip, right? It's the grip. Loosen your grip, and I'm looking at some of these guys and watching some of these videos, and I'm like, man, he can't loosen his grip any more than that. Why are you telling him to loosen the grip? So, it's nice to have somebody like you who trains, introductory archers and looks at things like trigger pull instead of just the grip, man. Because I think there's a lot of bad information out there, man, for guys that are just getting into the sport. I'm sure there's good information as well, but I mean, it's like, man, these guys are just banging on this grip repeatedly, and the guy's hand is literally open on the grip. So,
Well, what I see a lot of them do is they got the hand open, they won't have a sling, and they'll grab the bow when they shoot.
right,
You don't want to grab the bow. I had some video. I got the one bow I'm working on. I got a little bitty short stabilizer on there, and I never really set it up really good. I just set up and shot it, and the strings are original strings until I started this, so they were not very good. And one of the things to tell when your string is bad is your peep won't consistently line up because it
sure,
keeps rolling on you, rolling differently.
yeah.
And so I says, what's wrong with this bow? And I showed a picture and say, well, you're not grabbing the bow, you're not holding the bow. It's like, no, dude, you can't hang onto the bow. You don't want to hang onto the bow, because if you grab that bow, can you consistently do it 100% of the time? That bow
No,
will do the same thing. 100% of the time, the bow will do exactly the same thing every time. It doesn't have to be tuned. You can have a bow that's so out tuned that you're surprised it still shoots, and it'll still be consistent.
correct. The inconsistency comes from the person shooting the bow, obviously.
Right.
Yeah, 100%.
Now, when you put it in your hands, that makes it more difficult for you to actually get where you want it to go, but it'll shoot the same way every time. And you shoot the same arrow, it's going to hit in the same pain. But when you start putting different arrows in, and probably a human factor in it, that's when the bow problems are out of your mind. That's why I know there are some archers out there that will only let one person work on their bow, because that takes it out of their mind. They know that person can do the good job. They know what's going on. They know it's not the bow's problem. It's their problem if they're hitting off. And, you, you know, anybody has target panic, I can fix it.
Yeah.
Target panic is because you're pulling the trigger.
I've got a buddy struggling with a close friend of mine right now, struggling with target panic pretty bad, man. He went to he shot tack in Tennessee
Right.
a couple months ago, and I don't know what happened there, but it's like ever since tack, man, he's had this target panic because I don't think he's ever been through a course as challenging as that. Tack is the real deal, man, and so. Yeah, ever since he's struggling with it. So I'm going to pass that information along to him and be like, listen,
Yeah.
Royce, it's definitely the way you're pulling the trigger, man. Get it together.
get get him in the group, invite him into the group,
Yeah,
and we'll go in there. And I have my coaching lessons too. Maybe sign up for an hour of my time. I've
yeah,
teach a lot of people in an hour. I
yeah,
also
yeah.
have group ones going on. A little bit of advertisement for my coaching program, but I have private
Good,
lessons
man.
as well as group lessons, where we meet once a week,
Sure.
and we'll review videos and get on a live call, like a Zoom call. Um, kind of how we're recording this, but it would be live as well. And target panic is caused from pulling the trigger. You see the pin go over the target. You say, pull the trigger, shoot now. Pin moves off, and your eyes see it, and your mind says, oh, don't shoot. It comes by, shoot. Oh, don't shoot because it moved off. That's target panic. 100% of the times because you're trying to pull the trigger.
Well,
Watch him when he's shooting next time. I bet he's pulling the
yeah,
trigger.
I'm gonna have to check it out. I'm gonna have to check it out. Maybe I can pass a correction along for you.
Send him my way. I'll fix it.
All right, done. You got it, man.
But that's what we got to do for the people that are struggling, and that's the biggest reason why I created the podcast. I created the course. I created the podcast, the group. I have all that in there to help archers overcome those problems. I've even had competitive archers. It says, have a video, and I'm watching the video, and I said, there's not much I can say, but here is something that I see. You might think about changing this or looking at this.
Yeah,
and this is a competitive archer that shoots at a high level, and I'm still able in a video pick out something that they can change to improve at this little bit. The better you get, the more you need coaches, because it's hard for you to solve it. And
because I think that everything becomes, I think once you get to a certain level, right, everything's like, okay, now let's focus on the super fine details, right? Let's get better
right
incrementally now, instead of these huge improvements that happen when you really practice a lot. And yeah, I mean, I think once you're shooting at a high level, I mean, you can only become so good, right? Now you're picking and choosing these tiny little things to try to get that small improvement there.
Well, and that's something that all athletes have coaches.
Of course.
Name one athlete that performs better over than just a social athlete, which I'm not really calling that an athlete. It is a sport, but any of your athletes that are competing have a coach.
Yeah, I mean, definitely.
Yeah, boxers, they have a coach. Skaters have a coach. Football players have multiple coaches.
Yeah.
They have a big coach. They have a coach that coaches their specific task. Offense coaches, defense coaches, quarterback coaches. Yeah, everybody has coaches. No matter what your sport is, if you're into cycling, you're going to have a coach. If you're into archery and you're doing those higher levels, anybody competing at the Olympic level, guaranteed they have a coach, at least one.
As they should. I mean, it's coach. The need for a coach when you're a professional athlete or a high level athlete is significant. They can see you, you can't see yourself, and maybe they don't possess the athletic ability, right? Like obviously they're not on that same athletic level, but from a knowledge standpoint and the ability to watch what you're doing and help you to correct those and kind of grow as an archer or a football player or a golfer or whatever it is that you're into, it's critical, man. It's critical to achieving that high level, I think.
Well, and even I have coaches for what I'm doing now, creating a Facebook group and the pages, creating the course, just learning all that. I've got coaches that I'm paying for to help me in what I'm doing. Whether you're doing an entrepreneur, or you're doing affiliate marketing, or you're investing in property. I also invest in property, and I have a coach for that's helped me through that. You need that support staff.
Of course.
And that's
masters of their crafts, and you need to learn from them. If you're not the same, right? If you're not on that same, I think, intellectual level about these things, not intellectual level, that's probably the wrong word, but you know what I mean, as far as the that skill level as it pertains to that subject, you know what I mean? Then certainly we have to swallow our pride and listen to them, because they know more about it and they're more specialized in it. So it's only going to benefit you,
Yeah, and and you have to have an open mind. And in the many, many years, this is going to sound kind of weird, but if you have a husband and wife, the wife will want coaching, The husband does not. I teach the wife, she outshoots the guy 100% of the time.
Well, it's the ego, right? It's
Right.
it's our ego, right? No, no, I don't need help. Like, maybe you do. That's why your wife's shooting better than you.
Yeah. Now, now in the Facebook group, it's the other way around because the guys are in there because they want to learn,
Sure.
and a lot of them are learning. And those that learn the most, are the ones that are involved, get in there, ask questions, post some videos. We'll take a look at it. You know, that information is free in the group.
Yeah.
It's just the
Yeah.
personalized one that it's not free, but
Probably
so,
well worth it though. Well worth it.
right, right. And the other thing I do to help people out is I offer a free 15-minute consultation call. So I'll get on the phone with you and we'll talk about different stuff. It's not going to be a Zoom call. I'm not really going to do a lot of teaching. Um, I just have you fill out a little form so I get to know, you know, do you have a bow? Information about you. What are you expecting? What do you want to learn from coaching? Coaching for you, and then I'll go through the call, and then we'll see. Is coaching a fit for you? Sometimes the answer is no.
Yeah.
Sometimes
Some
what
people
I
just
have,
don't have it. Some people just
yeah.
don't have it. You know what I mean? That coaching mentality. Like some people don't, and that's okay.
Well, and some already have a coach. They're already learning from somebody that is got some good knowledge, and what I have to offer isn't going to provide any extra value. So
Sure.
for them, what they have now is perfect. And I run into those. I'll tell us like, what you have is good. Just stay with them.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, I can help them out, but is it worth our time? Their time to spend that in there when they can ask the same question to their coach that has the knowledge that they're learning from.
Yeah, and somebody
And
else,
and
somebody else may not have that and need that attention.
right.
That's like, you know what I
And
mean?
I don't want to teach something different. I don't want to teach a different way of doing it. That just confuses the archer. Uh, one of the things I've been able to do, as you go through looking at them, it's like, okay, what has your coach been teaching you, and then what are they telling you, and then I can shift to what they're teaching, and maybe make a few little corrections in their teaching. It may not be the way I teach, but I've been doing this 25 years, so I,
Yeah, a
I
little
can
while.
I can kind of see what's there, and you get where you can talk to somebody for a few minutes, and I got where it's like people come in and I talk to them a few minutes, and I don't even offer any advice because I know they're not open. You
Yeah,
learn
some people are
just how
like
the
that, man.
and it's like you don't want to learn, don't learn. You want to learn, I'll help you all I can.
Yeah,
And on my 3D rig is my NFA instructor patch. So I keep that on my rig. That's where I put it. So everybody can see I'm an instructor. And then if they ask me questions, I help them. But if I'm at the range shooting, I'm there to practice and shoot myself. I'm not going to go and say, oh, I can fix this. No, I'm there to shoot. But if I have the patch on there, they say, oh, you're an instructor. Oh, can you help me with this? Like, okay, they give you a few pointers. Now, if you want more detailed or long-term stuff, then let's schedule an actual coaching session. But
yeah.
I give tips all the time. Somebody says, what's going on with this? Like, well, try this, try this.
Well, that's
Try
awesome.
this and try that. So,
Very cool, man. Very cool.
so if anybody wants any custom-made arrows from, sounds like probably the best custom arrow maker out there, how would they get a hold of you?
I would love for those guys to come over and follow us on Instagram. We're at Adams Precision Archery on Instagram. My email address is Dustin Dustin Adams Precision Archery at Gmail. And then also visit us on the web at adamsprecisionarchery.com. So that's ADAMSPRECISION archery.com. And we have an inquiry form there where you can kind of fill out some pretty basic information as far as what you're looking for, what you're trying to accomplish, and then that information comes to us, and I'll reach out and do a consultation with them, and again, just have that discussion, like as far as what we're trying to accomplish, what kind of game we're hunting, what issues you're having with your current equipment, and then we'll we'll decide on a build and go from there, man. It's been great. Our customers have been awesome. We're super thankful for where we are in such a short time, and the product is high quality and high end, and people are loving it, man. I'm building hammers over here. So yeah, man, it's exciting. We're really excited about where we are and where we're going to go, and in the future here, we're going to be launching additional services and products. I'm hoping to break into the bowstring market here in the next probably, I don't know, 6 months or so. Start manufacturing bowstrings and have APA bowstrings out there on people's bows, and we'll even make a set for some early 2000s models bows, man.
Yeah, I make my own, so
Let me step off.
but that would be interesting to try that, just to see how they work, and
Yeah.
get some going in there, because making arrows, nice thing about the arrows and strings, making your own string, what colors you want, there's I don't know, probably 30 different colors.
More than that, man. I mean, it's insane what is available now, man. It's I don't think I really have anything to reference that against, because I wasn't 10 years ago I wasn't into archery, so I don't have that that long-term experience like that. But I mean, the options are endless and becoming more all the time, and the materials are becoming more advanced, and it's crazy. It's a fun time to be in archery, I tell you.
Yeah, I use BCY products for the
Sure.
string material.
Using a
That's
452 or a X99, or what do you
uh, the 452 is a new one. I got an 8125,
okay.
which is a fairly fast string material.
How's the creep?
None.
None. Oh, perfect.
No, they're basically none. It's very very low creep in it, and it works really well. I have had really good with that. And then the other string I use is also BCY, but it's their B50.
Okay.
Now that is what I use on recurves and longbows, because you don't want to use the other material, the 8125 or the fast bite materials that's used on compounds on recurves, because you can break tips off. And
Right.
there's a reinforced design for it. So you want that other material, which is a little bit more forgiving in there. And there's tons of colors in that. I think I probably have a dozen different colors of each material to make them from. So
Well, you'll never get bored with your bowstrings then.
no, it's like, what colors do I want to use them in? And I made up a whole bunch of little different samples of string material combinations, just little bitty short ones. You can see some of the different
Yeah.
colors you can put in them. You can
Yeah,
do
you
pink,
got some choices
fluorescent
there,
pink,
man.
chartreuse and pink, and you have blues and golds and tans and mountain berry, and uh, I don't like making just a plain straight black string. Uh,
Me either. Me either.
everybody makes the black strings and stuff. I've seen some now where they're actually making with like a fluorescent green. The whole thing's fluorescent green.
Oh
Uh,
yes, I've seen some. I've seen some now that are just like super loud, man. Like, like man, they're just like popping off the bow. They're so loud, man. Super black. But man, there's a lot of good materials out there now, and a lot of choices, which is great for people who are getting into archery now. I mean, you're not handcuffed to a black bowstring, and that's great. That's awesome.
and you can do three colors if you want. I've done a three-color one. I've actually done one that was two colors, and instead of twisting them, I actually braided them.
Oh,
So you
cool.
take twisted them inside of each other, and then it's kind of cool because they form like little V's on your string.
Yeah, that's very cool.
Yeah, and then you can twist them as well on there, on top of that too. But uh, you have to kind of plan for that, because it shortens your string more than just a few twists. So you have to kind of plan for that when you're making your
Yeah,
string.
sure.
But that's all stuff that it don't take long to make a string. When you got everything all set and ready, and when I had my store, I didn't stock any strings. The strings I had in the store, ones are left over when I bought the store, and I still have all of them left. Yeah, yeah, they're
Just
because they're
spin one
not.
out real quick when the customer needs a string. I mean, just spin a string up real fast and be done with it instead of having
Yeah,
inventory. Yeah.
and they come in and say, well, what color you want it? Oh, just black. No, you can't have just a black string. What color you want? You know, you can have two colors. And so I'd make all custom strings, and it don't take long. I actually had one guy one time call me up like an hour before we close, and he says, "Do you have a string for my bow, or can you make one?" It's like, I'm closing here in a few minutes. Can we do it tomorrow? And he says, "No, I got a tournament tomorrow, and my string's bad. I need it replaced tonight." I was like, "Okay, come on out."
That's
And so I come out, and I actually started a string after we closed. We locked the door, so I knew nobody'd be bothering us. And come in, and you have to look at the how wide the track is for the string. Some are a little skinnier, and some are a little fatter. Now, like on a string, you have a variation. I think like on 8125, it's like 18 to 22
strands.
strands is the normal.
Yeah.
You can on some go down a little bit more, depend on the number of strands. So I started making it because I knew it was skinny. So I started making it. Sure enough, no, it's gonna be too fat. So I threw it away because it's not worth tearing apart and starting over. It's just quicker,
Yeah.
easier.
Yeah.
You
Trash
buy
it.
a roll, you
Man.
buy a roll of string material. I think you make one string out of it, and the material's paid for. So it's not
Correct.
worth your time.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so I made another one, got him all gone out the door. By the time he came in and left the door ready to go practice that night, was less than an hour.
Yeah, that's the thing, I've actually, I've spent some time doing some research on that and working with it, and I think you can make a quality bowstring if you have the correct equipment. I think you can make a high end quality bowstring probably in about 40 minutes, 45 minutes. Does that sound right to
Yeah,
you?
yeah, yeah. You
Yeah,
can do that. Now, of course, it all depends on how long it is too. A single
yeah,
cam, they're running your 90, 100, 104 inches long, and it takes so much longer to because you have to walk down all that distance to run the strands over. Where a little
yeah.
short one, like in the 50, you can just kind of just lean back and forth.
That's
So you're
right.
quicker that way. And when you get really short, and it's actually harder to make the string when you get really short, because the jig, you have two little prongs at both ends, and you turn the one. And if it's too short, it's hard to get them there, especially once you've served the one end. Not so short. The longer one's actually easier. So
Yeah.
um, it's interesting. I've been making strings for a little over about 20 years now. So
Well, so safe to say you've got some experience.
right. Well, one of the things I learned when I went down to the PSC dealer school in 2001 was back then a lot of your bows had steel cables on
It's crazy, man. Who thought that was a good idea?
them. Well, at the time, it was a pretty good idea. And the problem with that is you have to replace both of them because the one broke, so it's no good. So you have to take off the other one and measure that length you want. And you have to make two new ones because the one broke, the one's not far behind. You have to make two, and they have to be the exact same length. If you're off by more than a 32nd of an inch, you can't twist the cable,
Right, you got problems.
and you
So
may
I'm
have to
you run
remake
into
them.
timing issues and everything with that as well.
Right, right.
Big
Because
time.
you can't twist them or anything. So they have to be made exactly the same. And
Yeah,
that's an art in itself. And then it got to where that wasn't popular. And then cables, you could get them, I could get a cable for $20 back then. That's all it was for cables. And then last time I heard it was over $100 for a single
yeah,
cable.
yeah,
You got to buy two.
yeah.
And so that's $200 just in materials plus your labor. I'm going to charge you at least $200 to make those because if I mess up one cable, I have to buy another $100 cable.
That's right.
And that's
That's
on me, not on them. So I'm
yeah.
going to charge
Thank
you
you for that.
$400 to $500 to make a set of steel cables. Now I don't think you can find them anymore. Uh, it's
Yeah,
not worth it.
yeah, no, definitely not. That's crazy expensive.
Yeah.
You can
Back then
buy
it was,
strings and cables now, I mean, for $150, and you have that flexibility of being able to, to twist cables and adjust lengths and stuff like that. So I think it's come a ways, yeah. I think the
yeah,
downside of that, right, is if you have a steel cable though, you don't deal with any stretch or anything. Obviously, it's steel, so
no.
once you get your timing in and everything with that, it probably stayed in time, I would
It,
think.
but those old bows, you really couldn't time them that well anyway.
Yeah,
They weren't the quality of the bows now compared to then is just far superior.
The technology, man.
Right. So if you were off slightly on them, you could probably be off by, a 16th of an inch and still be fine because most people wouldn't know the difference in them. And
Right.
sometimes you can take and tweak the limbs a little bit. There's a whole thing in tuning that you can go through that really makes it, next level on shooting your bow.
Yeah.
And you see,
That obsessive mindset that we were talking about earlier.
right.
Yeah.
Well, hey, it's been great talking to you. I'm sure we'll be
Dang.
talking some more because you're in the Facebook group,
Yeah.
so I know we'll be talking some more. But I want to thank you, Dustin, for being on the podcast. It's been real informative, and I'm know our listeners will enjoy it.
Yeah,
And
man. Thank you so much for having me, man. I feel privileged to have been here and have this conversation, and I'm really grateful to you for bringing me on, and I've enjoyed it as well.
yeah, and I'll have a link to contact you in the description for the podcast.
Awesome.
And
Thank
then I also put a link to join the Facebook group. There you can get free advice. I also put in a link if you're interested in coaching. We get you a 15-minute free consultation. I'll put a link into a form to fill out to get that. And we'll see you next week. Once again, my name is Roy Canterbury, and I've been your host today on Archery Talk 101 with my special guest, Dustin Adams.
Thanks so much.